Hello and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the latest exclusive interview that was just put out on Warhammer Plus about Dawn of War 4 and its development with none other than the senior game designer at King Art Games. The interview gets right into it with the senior game designer, Elliot Verbeest, talking about how they even got the chance to continue the Dawn of War series. GW actually were the ones that approached the studio, reportedly, with a hypothetical on how they would handle Dawn of War 4 if they were to make it. And the team at King Art really excitedly sent in their pitch as soon as they were given this offer. Again, at this point, it was just a hypothetical scenario, a what if maybe, and King Art Games were really excited to jump on this opportunity. Shortly after they sent in their pitch, GW would greenlight the project, and the team at King Art Games would immediately start development. After that brief introduction and how they began working with GW in the first place, they also started talking about the philosophy behind how they were developing the game and its mechanics. Verbeest discussed how the dev team went back through the Dawn of War series and looked for the highlights of those games and to see what they and the fan base truly loved out of each title. And as they were researching, they landed eventually on Dawn of War 1 to serve as their guiding star, if you will, and build from it as a foundation for this new title. While every Dawn of War title has admirably experimented with its formula and core mechanics, Dawn of War 4 will be reportedly returning to its roots, with large-scale battles and base building being at the center of its design, just like Dawn of War 1. But that isn't the only title from the series that they're going to be taking from. They also revisited 2 and 3 to try and dissect the best aspects of each one and find out how to integrate those things into 4. Amongst many things, the returning mechanics that Elliot specifically mentioned is large-scale battles and base building, like I said before, sync kills and cinematic animations between the characters and units that can happen throughout the battle, and very excitedly for me at least, the return of the Last Stand survival mode from the second game. Verbeest mentioned that they felt as though they were truly on the right path with these combinations of said mechanics, seeing as a pivotal piece of playtester feedback that they received was to make combat actually last longer and not go by as quickly, so that players could enjoy the cinematic feel of the battles and the crazy character moments that would just naturally unfold over the course of the fight during the playtest. And he said that he was very excited about how well the game was being received so far by playtesters, at least in specifically that regard. The interviewer, Alex, made sure to ask about how they had planned on integrating aspects of the tabletop game as well, and the greater lore into the actual gameplay, to really make it feel as though it's cemented in the Warhammer universe as not just an RTS game that happens to have a Warhammer skin on it, but truly belong in the Warhammer IP. He mainly mentioned it due to the fact that gameplay does really resemble situations that one would run into in a tabletop, because the, example gameplay that they were using, as I was watching it during the interview, it really did look like a tabletop game with the way units were moving around each other and engaging certain vehicles and everything, and it was actually pretty cool to see. Verbeest would go on to explain that the studio did closely work with Games Workshops to integrate whatever mechanics they could from the tabletop when possible, and that it really helped refine the vision of the game and make it feel like an authentic Warhammer experience, which was reassuring to see. On top of the authenticity aspect, Elliot expounded that they decided on separating the balance between single player and multiplayer for power balance reasons. In the single player campaigns, the goal is to make you feel the raw and awesome power of your faction to the absolute fullest, so that you can experience your power fantasy as you want in a campaign setting like that. But for multiplayer, to promote the most fun and competitive atmosphere they tweak the numbers and stats to make a better experience. In order to keep this in a good place, they use extensive playtests to keep the balance in check, but fun. So I really hope that pans out well.
So, Mr. Shaker, what does the community have to look forward to?
Well, anyone who's subscribed has only the highest quality content to look forward to on a weekly basis. The best lore, the best news updates, the best stream.
Oh, okay. We get it. The best everything. But how does someone get access to this amazing community?
Subscribing and turning on notifications grants automatic entry to the Shakespeareum of mankind, where they can join me in my holy crusade to conquer the Warhammer community online and bring about the golden age of man.
Alrighty then.
After this, the interviewer went on to ask why they went with the factions that they did to launch the game with. Space Marines and Orcs are integral to Dawn of War, and they obviously go without saying. They were of course going to be involved in the game. But the other two ancillary factions are very interesting picks. Necrons were chosen due to the fact that they have made appearances in previous titles, so they bring an air of familiarity, and they are also immensely popular, making them an easy pick for a second Xeno faction to join the conflict. As for AdMech, this was a much more nuanced choice, seeing as they wanted to find a faction that hadn't been in any of the games before and carried enough popularity with them to not be too dissuading or unfamiliar to any non-diehard fans of the IP. But it also still left the door open to some really interesting storytelling, and with all those factors, they really quickly landed on the Adeptus Mechanicus. I think that this is personally a great choice, mostly because of how Adeptus Mechanicus is amazing, AdMech is a great faction, and they are really familiar. They're plastered all over the art of Warhammer 40k. Even if you're not super familiar with the IP, you can still tell what an AdMech is when you see one, you know? And they're also like a perfect counter to Necrons, and I think that's gonna like lead to some really fun story beats unfolding. As for the location where the story will be taking place, the series will be revisiting an all-too-familiar planet by the name of Kronos. Verbeest explained that the team wanted to keep the story contained on a single planet to keep the story really focused and intense, and as such, they decided for the narrative, it made the most sense for the Bloodravens to return to one of their old recruitment worlds. Without getting into any spoilers, Verbeest discussed the general tone of the story and the setup for the campaign. The Bloodravens are in dire straits, seeing as the Great Rift has torn the Imperium asunder, and the chapter has been left scattered all across Imperium Nihilus. Portions of the chapter have rallied and set their sights on Kronos to rebuild their numbers, but complications arise when they are ambushed by orcs upon returning to the planet's surface. As revealed in one of the trailers, the Dark Angels, led by Lionel Johnson, which also marks his first appearance in a video game, comes in to try and support the Bloodravens in their time of need. Verbeest did clarify that due to obvious balancing issues, the Lion will only appear in the campaign or like story mode. He didn't spoil any details, but he did mention that the Lion will appear in the Bloodravens' darkest hour and help turn the tide of battle in their greatest time of need, which honestly sounds really hype to me, and I can't wait to see it in gameplay. On a really nice note that made me happy personally and ended the interview on a great note is when Elliot was asked about his own personal love for Warhammer and the team and whether or not they loved Warhammer before working on this game or if it's a new IP to them, and they said that they had always loved Warhammer. Before any mention of Dawn of War 4 was a thing, and before it was even a thought across the studio's mind, members of the studio had already organized weekly painting nights where they would paint their Warhammer miniatures together and put them in a, community display case there and play Warhammer games there at the office, which I think is just amazing. I think it's such a blessing that we, as, consumers and fans of the IP, get to see one of our favorite series ever get developed by people that have a genuine love for Warhammer and the universe. I personally feel that when the dev team has genuine love for the IP that they're working on, it gives me more faith in the project, and it means the project is much more set up to succeed. But what do you think about this new info revealed in this latest interview? And does it give you faith in the project moving forward? Let me know what you're looking forward to in Dawn of War 4 down below, and I'll see y'all in the next video.